What's up guys, Thomas from FT86 Speed Factory, and in today's Tech Tip Tuesday, we're going to be installing the Mtec clutch spring. So Mtec's clutch springs are designed to give you more feedback in the clutch pedal. Now compared to stock, the Mtec one is a lot lighter weight of a spring, a lower spring rate, and the stock one is super stiff. And this one's gonna assist a lot. If you know, you've driven an FRS BRZ or 8.6, the clutches are really weird. Like, I admit I have stalled one out just because I couldn't find, it's hard to know what's going on with the clutch pedal. And this spring here is supposed to give more feedback and a little less assistance to the clutch pedal. The Mtec clutch spring is going to work on all FRS BRZs and 8.6s as long as you have the factory clutch pedal. So it doesn't matter if your car is stock or fully built race car, it's going to work on a factory clutch or any aftermarket clutches. Now the tools you're going to need to install this clutch spring are going to be a small pick, and that's going to be used to remove this little E-clip. Then you're going to need a small punch, and that punch is going to push this little pin out of the way. And to put some force behind that punch, I recommend getting a hammer. You can do a lot smaller of a hammer. This is just the only one that we had. And to finally pop this out all the way, I recommend getting a very long flathead screwdriver. And then when you're ready to install the new spring, there are two included zip ties that you're going to use for some miniature spring compressors to get this in. Now you're also going to want a set of needle nose pliers, the ones with the bend in them. Those work pretty good. This is going to be used to reinstall the E-clip, and then you're also going to want some wire cutters or a knife. Wire cutters work better, and this is going to cut the zip ties off once you're finished installing the new spring. Now we're going to be starting by installing the clutch spring, and if you follow the clutch pedal up, you'll find the factory spring assembly, and this is what we're going to be removing. There's a little bit of grease there, and yours might be pretty dirty, so you may want to wipe this off before we start. The first step is going to be removing this E-clip right here. You'll need to get your pick right in these small gaps on the top, and you can easily pry this thing off, and it's a much easier, a more efficient way of doing things rather than using a needle nose pliers and trying to push this thing off, because it's going to keep spinning back and forth, and that's a way a lot of videos are going to be showing how to do it on YouTube. This is a much easier way. But this clip will fly off, so make sure you don't lose it. Then you can push the pin out with that punch and hammer. This is why I recommend a smaller hammer, just because there's not a lot of room to work in here. And usually the pin will get stuck at the very end. So this is where you can take the big flat head and pry it out. Now with the pin gone, the spring assembly is still gonna be in there pretty good. So take the hammer and the flat head and knock the assembly loose. There we go. Now with the spring removed, it definitely feels a lot heavier, which you might like. If it's not like an aftermarket clutch, I don't really want the clutch to be heavy if it doesn't have to be. And it's a lot shorter. Like it's the same length, I guess, in throw. You're not changing how far the pedal goes down, but like the first inch and a half, maybe 2 inches is all kind of spongy. So it feels like kind of like a lot of play. And then you get your heavy clutch pedal, which a lot of people say that is a lot better for engagement. You feel a lot more and it's free, but then you kind of get this cheaper clutch pedal feel that's not really refined, and it's heavy for no reason. Plus, if you wanted to get an aftermarket clutch that was going to be heavier, this would make it even heavier, which daily driving might become a pain. And I think that's where the Mtec spring kind of plays its part, right in the middle between like the stock spring that gives you no feel and a no spring that gives you a lot of feel, but it's really heavy and has all this spongy play in it. Hopefully the Mtec's right in the middle where it gives you enough feedback in the clutch, but it's not heavy. To install the Mtec spring, we're first going to need to compress this to help it get inside the clutch pedal there, and we're going to do that by compressing it with the zip ties that are included in the kit. And I'm going to go under the first one and right before the last one, just so it doesn't get pinched in here in the assembly, because we do have to take these zip ties out eventually. What the heck? Stupid zip ties. Okay, with some new zip ties, let's try this again. Okay, it's a bit shorter than the factory one, so hopefully that's enough to get this thing in. Obviously, if it's not enough clearance, you're just gonna have to tighten the zip ties. All right, so first impressions of the Mtec clutch spring. It's heavier than the stock spring. It's noticeably heavier, but it's not near as heavy as without a spring. And that play that I found with no spring, it's kind of like taking that slop up and it's now kind of springy instead of spongy. It's hard to describe pedal feel. But as far as the engagement goes, I feel like this engages a lot better. You can at least feel where the clutch is engaging, or it engages better. It just feels better. And my thinking process of why it is because it's less assisted. So on your way back up, when you're engaging the clutch pedal isn't pushing you as far, and it's harder. It's a heavier, slightly heavier clutch feel. So you're not moving as fast, so I feel like you can stay in that friction zone a little bit easier, and I feel like it's more natural of a clutch pedal because these cars out of the box have a really odd clutch feel. So now it feels more like every other stick shift car I've driven, which I like. So I would recommend this clutch. So if you were having problems getting adjusted to the FRS BRZ and 8.6 clutch, you might want to give the Mtec clutch spring a try. Now the hardest part of this installation is going to be like maneuvering your head and body into the footwell of the car, and maybe your neck might get a little tweaked or sore from looking up at a weird angle, but that's the hardest part. It should maybe take 30 minutes to an hour now that you have this super helpful installation guide. Now if you want to pick one of these springs up for yourself, the link's going to be down in the description, or you can click right here. If you have any questions at all, please send us an email at sales@ft86speedfactory.com. This is Thomas, and I'll see you guys in the next video. FT86 Speed Factory, in today's tech, and welcome back to another Tech Tip Tuesday. Thomas from FT86 Speed Factory, and